2024 is going to be the year of the swim bait. Everybody's going to be throwing swim baits. I'm going to teach you exactly how to throw them, what to use, how to cast them. Let's do it. All right, so these are the swim baits that we're going to be using this year. 2024 is going to be the year of the swim bait. Everybody's going to be using swim baits at the jetty, at the beach, everywhere. I just know it. So let me show you my arsenal of swim baits that I like to use. Now, there's several different swim baits in here. I have different colors, and I will explain to you which situations I'm going to use what colors for, what the water looks like, and which color is going to be better in that water. So let's go ahead and open this up. This is going to be my first box here. This is an NLBN box with all kinds of lures here. Got these green here. We got the bone color. We got a mullet. We also have the midnight purple here, and these are my favorite ones because the water here in Galveston is always dirty and brown. This is what you need in the water when it's dark brown. This is going to have a really good silhouette in the water. This is the one I carry with me when I go out in my backpack. When I go to the jetty, I want to be as light as possible, so I only take this with me. We got an old school spool tech here back in the day. This is like, I've had this for like 6-7 years. Got a lot of fish. Here I got an NLBN. This is a more natural looking mullet here. I will use this when the water is like green, sandy green. When the conditions are much more clear and the fish can see better, you want to use something more natural like this. Same thing with this color here, natural looking color, clean conditions. We have the purple here. You need a silhouette in dirty conditions. And this is a color that you would also use when you're fishing at night. We have a assortment of Fishlab tackle also here. Check it out. We got eels. These are 3.5 ounce eels here. When I want to jig the bottom, this is going to be a black and clear looking jig here. We're going to be jigging this at the bottom. And when the conditions are a little cleaner, we got the whites. And we got several replacements here along with the jig heads. Now this is the most expensive parts here. Jig heads are really expensive. I want to talk about the next most important thing when you're fishing with swim baits. It's the color and what kind of swim bait you're going to use. I'm not very particular about using colors, but I do have 2 rules. When the water is muddy, I use the darkest lure you can get for a nice silhouette contrast. When the water is clean, I use something more natural. So in Galveston, Texas, the water is almost always dirty when you're fishing swim baits, especially at the jetty. I'm always going to use something like this, a dark lure. This is purple. This is an NLBN. This is a 2 ounce or 1.5 ounce. It doesn't matter. But see this here, this is going to be a great silhouette when the water is nasty and dirty. So this also here, you're going to use when it's nighttime. This color here is deadly at night. A lot of the big fish that I've caught on swim baits at night have always been black or purple. Wobbly it is, that tells you it's wobbly. That's what the fish look for. They see that action, that wobbly, that barrel roll, and that's when they're gonna strike. So here we have a natural mullet here. When the water's cleaner, when the water is, let's say like a green, crystal green looking color, then we're gonna use something that's much more natural because the fish are gonna be able to see much better than in dark water. So this is what we're going to use here. Look at that. See, natural, looks just like a mullet. Nice action, wobble, nice little barrel roll when you're swimming it by like that.
What's a wobble?
That's what they're going to strike right there. But the other thing I do want to mention is that when you're fishing with these swim baits, more than likely, you're almost going to always be fishing the bottom of the jetty. You're going to be jigging them or swimming them along the rocks. The water clarity at the bottom of the jetty is completely different from the top. On the top, you have sun penetrating the water, so the water is a little cleaner, much more crystal clear, especially when it's green. But as soon as you go down below that water column, it gets darker. So you're going to be most of the time, you're going to be using stuff like this. Next thing I want to talk about the swim baits, how much weight are you going to use? Exclusively in the Texas coast, most of our jetties are very deep. They range from 30 feet to 50 feet. And if you're fishing the big jetties out there in Port O'Connor, there's spots of that jetty that are 102 feet. But at the tips, it's like about 50 feet. So you're almost always going to be fishing the bottom. You're going to need a heavy swim bait. When you're fishing those heavy areas where the water is really deep, the current is going to be swift, you want to use something that's at least 3 ounces. So here is a Fishlab Eel. This is a 3.5 ounce jig head. And what I like about this is that it's so heavy, but look at it. It looks pretty natural also, just like an eel. And this is so heavy that you can jig it up and it'll go straight down and you'll be jigging it up just like that. What happens is that as soon as it hits the ground, it's gonna have like a little sand puff around, and that'll attract the fish along with the tail. So what's gonna happen is that once you pull it up with the jig, the fish are gonna hit it right when it goes down. Almost always that's gonna be the case. So when you have really deep water, swift current, you use 3 ounces or more. If you're fishing shallow jetties in Texas, let's say the jetties along the Galveston seawall, those are very shallow, max 3, 4, 5 feet. But then fish pads, jetties, and Port Aransas are very shallow. Port Mansfield are not too shallow. They're about 10 feet. You can get away with something much more along the lines of an ounce to 2 ounces if you're jigging the bottom. If you're fishing for tarpon and you see that the fish are subsurface, then you're going to want to use something that's much more lighter or even smaller, because you're going to be swimming it on top, just like that. As for my swim bait setup, this is what I'm going to be using this year. This is a brand new Okuma Makaira. This is a 10,000. This thing is indestructible. This is CN's machined aluminum. This thing is a tank. Look how beautiful it is. I posted a video last week on why I chose this as my new Jetty setup for 2024. So we're not going to go too in depth in it. If you want to see that, then you can watch that other video. It's going to be linked. And on here, I'm using a 7.6 Okuma PCH rod. The only reason I switched it out is because I'm going to be going to a tuna trip on Friday. So I switched this to a popping setup right here. But you can actually probably use this for the Jetty also, who knows. But then on the other side, let me show you guys. So here's the other setup, and you guys have seen me use this setup for a lot of things. I've used it to cast out baits, spoons, swim baits, everything. This thing here can stop any fish that you're going to encounter at the Jetty. This is the Okuma Komodo 400. This is spooled up to the brim, a 50-pound braid. I can crank down the drag all the way down and stop a jack in his tracks just like that. And I got this on a 9.6 Okuma Cycle Stick Muskie. This is basically a muskie setup. This is to catch muskies, but I use it for the jacks because this thing here has nice length, 9.6. This is a broomstick. This is going to allow you to put the drag all the way down and just set the hook. No problem. You're going to catch that fish real quick. I also added a mod here. I added a surgical tubing, blacked. Sometimes when I cast it out, I can stop the spool right away. I find things that work better for me. I know somebody says something in the comment, well, so be it. So we just stop it just like that, and that's it. Or you can manually spool it just like that. You can thumb it if you feel like you're gonna get an overrun, but you're not going to on this thing. Another thing is that I like about this reel is that it has a clicker. You don't see a lot, you don't see any bait casters with clickers. There might be 1, 2, or 3, but this is the truth right here. I love this setup right here. You catch anything. Another thing that I've been incorporating in my Jetty arsenal is this rod runner here. This thing here has been so convenient when I'm carrying a lot of stuff. This is going to be perfect for when you're fishing jetties that are not flat, that you can carry a cart. Like Port Aransas jetties, South Padre Island jetties are terrible. There's no way you can get a cart out there. So this is the perfect place for this. Mansfield, no cart. Basically anywhere, the pier, boating, whatever, this thing will come in convenient because now you can carry 4 rods just like this, then you have another free hand. Before that, I used to have to carry a bunch of rods like this, and your wrist will hurt. Just super inconvenient, not efficient. But with this here, this has really made my life a lot easier. All right, so leader wise, this is what I like to use. This is a 60-pound soft steel fluorocarbon leader. Let's be honest, this is Galveston. You don't need to use fluorocarbon, but sometimes the water gets clean, and this will come in clutch. Anything that'll get you a step above other people when you're catching fish, anything that's gonna outsmart the fish is always better. Even if it seems like overkill, fluoro in Galveston, Port Aransas, South Padre Island, when the water is green, yes, you're gonna need this. But I like to use 60 pounds for abrasion resistance. Sometimes I might even use 80 pounds if I see that there's mackerel and kings around. I will bump up this to 80 pounds. But 60 works most of the time, and I use about 4 feet of it because sometimes those fish like to run under the rocks or along the rocks. But where you're gonna try to net that fish along the rocks, you could break off with anything under 60 pounds. I've broken off on 50 pounds. You will break off on 30 pounds. But 60 pounds and 80 pounds is where it's at. So like that, you have a lot of abrasion resistance, so you don't lose that monster fish. Another thing that I like to use that makes my life a lot easier when you're fishing, so in order for you to change out lures quickly, fast, efficiently, I get these breakaway Fastline clips here, and these here, what I do is I tie a Palomar knot at the end of the leader. I gotta stitch it down first, but here, it's a Palomar knot on here, and then now I can swap out lures fast, just like this. All right, so what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna show you how to work these swim baits. We're gonna do bottom fishing now. Now that we're at the jetties, if you're targeting bull reds, cobia, any other fish that lives at the bottom with a swim bait, this is the way we're gonna fish it. We're gonna start jigging the bottom. Let me show you how to do that. Jigging the bottom, swim baiting at the jetty, like I said earlier, is one of the most dangerous methods to fish because it's expensive. You get this snag, you lost 10 bucks.
Sit down.
Sit down, buddy. Let me go ahead and show you how I'm gonna cast out. We're gonna cast out. I'm gonna let it sink all the way down. You'll feel it. There we go. All right, so now we're at the bottom. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna give it a few twitches to get it off the ground. And then, all right, now we know exactly where we're at. We have a, looks like it feels like a soft bottom. I'm reeling in slowly. I don't feel any bumps, so we're in the middle of the channel now. So what I like to do is when we're fishing the swim bait at the bottom, twitch, twitch. As soon as you feel it hit down, you'll feel the rod tip. You're gonna feel it that it's hit the bottom. Twitch, twitch. Boom, hit the bottom. Hit the bottom. So you're gonna get 2 nice twitches like this, nice ones. 1, 2, let it sink. Reel in your slack. 1, 2. There we go, we're hitting it. And we're gonna do that till we get really close to the rocks. And this is the dangerous part here. This is when you start losing gear. Do that. All right, now we're very close to the rocks. The reason that I know that is because what I look at, when I know when I'm right on the rocks, right at the base of the jetty, if my line is pretty parallel down from the rocks, I know that I'm really at the base. So what I'm gonna do then is, since I'm almost at the base of the jetty, I'm gonna reel in my slack, set the hook real quick and reel in fast. And there we go, see? Look how close we were. It's already right on top. That's how I know. That's the big trick when you're fishing with these swim baits. Once you see that your line is like within like 20 yards in front of you and it's parallel to the rocks, race up your tip as hard as you can, reel in as fast as you can, because if you don't do that, you're gonna get it snagged every single time. But that's the point of swim baiting when you're at the jetties. You gotta fish close to those rocks. I mean, that's where the fish are at every single time. But that's how I like to jig at the jetty when I'm fishing the swim baits. The other method that I use is a slow swim at the bottom, about a foot above the sand. Let me show how I do that. Same thing, you're gonna cast out. Gonna let it sink all the way down. Now, one thing I do want to mention is that the lighter weight that you use, the less sensitivity you're gonna get, so you're not gonna feel exactly when it hits. When you're using 3 ounces, you're gonna instantly feel that lure hit the bottom. So this is what I'm gonna do now. When I'm fishing along the bottom, close to the jetty, I wanna just swim it. What I do is go like this, and then slowly just start working like this at the bottom. You'll feel that it's close to the bottom because you'll feel that sometimes the jig is hitting stuff at the bottom, and you do it like this. I'm getting close to the rocks because I'm up 20 yards within the rocks, and I see that my line is parallel. What I'm gonna do now, I'm gonna do this, reel in real fast. Check this out. You see? Right away, it came up right away. That's the trick. So the slow rolling at the bottom, you're gonna hit a lot of bull reds that way. I'm gonna show you is the surface. Whenever you see reds on the surface or whatever, cast it out. As soon as it hits the water, start reeling in like this. Moderate. Right now we're within a foot of the water, the top water column. I'm just reeling it in like this. Whenever you see them busting on top, they're always gonna hit it.